Hello and welcome back. This is the Generally Bad Gamer Jolly, and it has been a while since I have posted up any content, but here we are putting some stuff up. And today we're talking about, the Tome of Champions 2021 Underworld's Warbands for Order, but for second edition. So really we're just going to talk about how these profiles now really are they useful in second edition? Are they something that's worth your time trying to track down, trying to convert if you can't find the models because the models are out of print? Or otherwise, are they worth using in second edition? Because GW just recently confirmed that all the Bladeborn rules, including the one from the Tome of Champions 2021, are usable in second edition. So, this is going to be part one of two, discussing the Order warbands, and we're going to get started. First, we have Morgwaeth's Blade-coven. So, what I did for each of these is I also looked up, since they're out of print, what the going price on eBay is for these different warbands. And Morgwaeth's Blade-coven is this terrible, horrific amount of $115. So what we're going to do is we're going to see kind of how it compares to the updates that the Daughters of Cain got in the compendium, and we're going to see if they're worth using, and much more if they're worth buying at any price close to this. So what we have, this is the Bladeborn profiles from Tome of Champions 2021, and Morgwaeth herself is pretty much a hag queen. Now, the big thing is, are you using a hag queen already? And if the answer is no, then it's not going to be worth buying this box at all, but we're going to go through the details. So Morgwaeth herself has a similar profile to a hag queen with an extra range, 4 extra hit points, and an extra point of crit for 20 points more. Now, if you're using a hag queen, then Morgwaeth herself is probably a pretty decent upgrade for the points. As we continue on, the Blood Stalkers next, and that would be Kyrie from the Bladeborn warband. What we're looking at here is 15 points more for 2 more hit points. Not really worth it overall over the normal Bloodstalker, so probably best just sticking with that Bloodstalker, the generic one. Then we have our Sisters of Slaughter, which kind of compared to Camis, it looks like. So Camis is 20 points more and really only has 2 more hit points. So definitely not worth running Camis over just the generic Sisters of Slaughter. Elathain's next, and Elathain is pretty much a witch elf. And she does have, again, 2 more hit points, 1 more attack. You're looking for 30 points more, though. So, really not worth it when it comes down to it for that extra 30 points for 2 hit points and 1 extra attack. Finally, we're going to look at Kirsa. Kirsa! I think that's what it is. And Kirsa also is really a witch elf. So, the exact same stats as Elathain, so once again, not worth it. So overall, what we have there are just some plus and minuses to say whether they are worth whether they're worth more or less than the new compendium versions. But overall, it's really my opinion of, are they worth running? And I say Morgwaeth is the only one worth running over the compendium version. But you are paying more points for the upgrades, and you would have to be running a Hag Queen. So you're probably not going to run any of these models, and I wouldn't run 4 of them no matter what. So Morgwaeth's Blade-coven, not very good in second edition, not worth paying $115 for. Next, we have the Chosen Axes. When I looked up the Chosen Axes on eBay, which is where I'm getting all these prices from, because since they're out of print, that's kind of one of the places you have to go to unless you get lucky and find them someplace else. The Chosen Axes are going for, this is the lowest pricing, $65 plus $13.50, and it ships from Greece. So not cheap also. What we're looking at for the Chosen Axes is, I'm going to just skip to the chase on them. I love Fire Slayers, but the Chosen Axes, I didn't think I was ever going to use them before in first edition. I'm definitely not going to use them now because 3 movement fighters have gotten a big points reduction in second edition. And as we can see here, they are all more points than their counterparts in second edition. Uh, Full Grimnir himself is 55 points more than an Auric Runefather. And all he has is he's got 4 more hit points and a better damage profile of 3-6 compared to 2-5, but 55 points for that is so not worth it. Then everybody else is just flat out worse versions for the most part of their counterparts. You're getting 2 more hit points on each model, but they are just so many more points that it makes the Chosen Axes not a good run at all. And their ability is not worth all those point upgrades. So for the Chosen Axes, I own them already. I love Fire Slayers. I'm never going to run them as the Chosen Axes. I will probably just paint them up and use them as generic Fire Steel Hand Axe Berserkers, a Flame Strike Pole Axe Berserker, and a Rune Father. Coming up next, we have Elathain Soulraid. This one, still fairly affordable on eBay from what I found. $38, free shipping. That seems pretty good, especially once we start looking at what they offer. So Elathain herself is a soul render. But we get the great thing of she has almost the exact same profile as a Soul Render, the same net ability, and 2 more hit points for 35 points less. So what we see here is that the Soul Render, according to GW, was very underpriced in first edition. So Elathain herself is amazing. You get that Soul Render net ability, you get the Soul Render stats, you get 2 more hit points for 35 points less. So we're already looking really good with this Underworld's Warband, this Bladeborn Warband. Uh, what we have then is a bunch of unique models, and the only one that really has a counterpart is Furin right up there, the next model. Furin, you could kind of say compare him to a Thrall, though he's not a Thrall. What we do have, though, is for 40 points more, pretty sizable amount of points, you do lose a inch of range. You gain 1 attack, lose 1 strength, a better damage profile of 2-4, a better toughness of 4 versus 3, and double the hit points at 16 versus 8. I think Furin, for the 40 points more and being tougher and having a lot more hit points, is a really good deal. You're looking at a non-eel tanky unit that can survive a little bit. Not a lot, but much better than the Thralls can. I think for the 120 point price tag, Furin's really good. Now that's really all the direct comparisons we have. Then we have Tamiel with a range attack, which the range attack itself isn't that impressive, but it is a drag ability, which I really like. And for 85 points, you're looking at something that has 2 more hit points than the normal Thrall or Reaver. Still pretty nice. Doonclaw, still Doonclaw. Best model ever made, not really playable. Run them for fun if you want, but don't take them to anything competitive. Spinefin is interesting now. Spinefin is very squishy. Spinefin wasn't really worth it too much in first edition, but since Flyers got a big price hike, you're looking at a really fast model for under 100 points that can fly. And that's pretty awesome right there. So it all kind of depends on what you're looking for in your warband. If you need a quick piece that can just jump around the board and claim objectives just out of nowhere, Spinefin can be pretty good. The Spinefin is going to die pretty hard once it gets attacked. Overall, I say that 4 of the 5 of these units are worth playing. And Elathain herself is super worth it. Doonclaw, while not playable, best model in the game. So you're still looking at a win there. So I say for the price point that we are seeing on eBay at the moment for these out of print models of around $38, awesome buy. Great models to use, and they add some good new utility to the Deepkin. Up next, we have Thundrik's Profiteers. Thundrik's Profiteers were looking pretty affordable too, at $30.98, though almost gone. So the next closest ones were about $10 cheaper, not cheaper, $10 more expensive than that. So Thundrik's Profiteers might not stay affordable for long. So let's take a look and see if they're worth buying. So what we have here is 5 different profiles, and we have an alright triple. In the third round of the game, you get an extra attack. In one of my older videos, I covered the abilities and everything, so you can check out the older videos if you want to know more about that. But what we have first is Thundrik himself. His most comparable model is an Ether Chemist, because he has the Ether Chemist ability. He is a hefty 25 points more than the Ether Chemist, and when you kind of look at the stat profiles, they have a different range profile. I kind of like the Ether Chemist profile more just because it's a lot of attacks, so you're more likely to get those crits. But Thundrik's range profile himself is not bad. It's a strong one that's going to hit a lot and has a decent 2-5 damage profile. They have the exact same melee profile, which is not impressive. And Thundrik himself has 4 more hit points than the Ether Chemist. I don't think I would run Thundrik that often myself. Maybe if you wanted to try changing things up a little bit, a slightly tougher Ether Chemist with a range attack that's more likely to finish off weak chaff, but overall I like the Ether Chemist more, and Ether Chemist is cheaper. Next we have Drakskewer, and Drakskewer's closest equivalent is the Sky Warden with that Vulcanizer pistol and Sky Pike. This is where I was kind of surprised. I figured since flying models and models with lots of speed got a price hike in 2nd edition, I figured that Drakskewer would end up being cheaper than his closest equivalent, but he's actually 35 points more expensive. You're looking at the exact same range profile, the exact same melee profile. I just had a quick glance. If I'm missing something there, let me know. And 2 more hit points for 35 points. You are also losing out on whatever the ability is that the Sky Warden has. I don't think it's a very good one. I'm not super familiar with the Caradron Overlords, but 35 points is a lot for 2 hit points and access to Thundrik's Profiteer's ability. I would say Drakskewer is not worth it. Then we have Deadeye Lund. Deadeye Lund is basically a Grundstock Thunderer, there we are, with Ether Shot Rifle. They have the exact same profiles, attack profiles, and going with the Underworld's theme that they had at the time, he has 2 more hit points than the equivalent, though he's 20 points more. Once again, 20 points more for 2 hit points, not worth it, especially when it's not worth it. Next up, we have Edric Ironhail, who has the old Ethermatic Volley Gun. Now, the old Ethermatic Volley Gun was awesome because it was 6 shots. So once again, you were better able to fish for those crits, which is what you were doing because it's a 1-3 damage profile. The 1 damage, The 3 damage, not bad at that 3 to 15 range. So having more shots, double the shots actually, is the Ethermatic Volley Gun Arcanaut, is fantastic. You are looking at quite a price hike, though, at 40 points. And you get double the shots on the gun, and you get 2 more hit points. I think he could be worth it if you've got the extra points laying around, or if you just like the extra shots because you're going against a bunch of chaff and you want to be able to reliably pull off crits just to down them, either chaff or weakened models. So even though 40 points is a lot, I think Edric Ironhail could be worth it, just because he has double the ranged attacks. Finally, we have Garrod. Garrod is basically the equivalent of just a normal Arcanaut company guy. So as we're looking, they have the exact same attack profiles. Garrod has 2 more hit points, but other than that, they're exact same. For 2 hit points for 2 additional hit points for 20 more points. I've already said this, not worth it. Just go with your Arcanaut company. They are amazing value for their points. So overall, I say most of Thundrik's Profiteers are not worth it, with Enric Ironhail being a good option if you want to pay the extra points. If you want them, because you like the models or you want Enric, start looking now because the more scarce these models come since they're out of print, the more expensive they're going to get. And once they get above kind of that $38 price point that they're at right now, it's definitely not going to be worth the buy. Next, we have Myari's Purifiers. Myari's Purifiers, we can see, are starting to get expensive again now. At essentially $70. That is a lot. $70 for 4 models. So, let's take a look. Now, Myari Lightcaller himself has an awesome it's an ability that I really like. It's a good defensive ability that reduces uh, the number of attacks that enemy characters get while within 6 inches of him. It's something that I don't believe the Lumineth Realm Lords have access to otherwise, so it's a nice ability. Now, Myari himself, and I have him cut off down there a little bit, his name, so sorry about that, is most directly comparable to a High Sentinel because he also has the highest Sentinel ability if you look at his runes. He is 60 points more expensive than a High Sentinel. So if you are just interested in the High Sentinel ability, definitely stick with just the High Sentinel. What Myari has is a slightly worse melee profile, but you're not taking the High Sentinel or Myari for their melee ability. Myari does have that spellcaster range attack, which is eh. Myari also has 8 more hit points and access to his triple. So I think Myari could be at least fun, if not worth it, depending on what you're looking to get out of your leader. If you just want the high sentinel ability, don't take Myari. If you want a more durable high sentinel with a ranged attack, not a great ranged attack, but a ranged attack, and a pretty awesome, in my opinion, defensive ability, then Myari could be worth it in this case. Now, next we have Banhanar. We're just going to call him Banhammer because he is our big hammer dude. He is comparable to a Stone Guard with a Stone Mallet, as they have the exact same attack profile. And Banhammer has 2 more hit points. We're looking at 2 more hit points for, what is that, 25 points? And if 2 hit points for 20 additional points wasn't worth it, this isn't worth it. The Stone Guard got that nice benefit of their movement 3, so they got a big points reduction. So just stick with the Stone Guard from the new Compendium 2nd edition. Next, we have Aelin. Aelin is equivalent to a Venari Blade Lord. Now, what we see here is that Aelin and the Blade Lord have a comparable attack profile, but you're losing an inch of range on the attack, which could be a big deal. What you're getting is 2 hit points more, but Aelin is 5 points less. So, kind of depends on what you're looking for. I know a bunch of people aren't crazy about the Blade Lords anymore, just because they are above 100 points. If you like the Blade Lords and you don't mind losing the inch of reach, Aelin could be a fun alternative, but you're probably just as well off taking a normal Blade Lord if you're interested in them. Sinela is the equivalent of a Sentinel. And Sinela has the exact same combat stats, 2 more hit points for 5 points more. So 2 hit points for 5 points is good, but does 2 hit points on the Sentinel really matter most of the time? Probably not. So I probably wouldn't bother paying the extra 5 points for the 2 hit points. So what we're looking at overall for Myari's Purifiers is that Aelin could be worth it if you want a slightly cheaper Blade Lord with 1 less reach but 2 more hit points. And Myari could be worth it if you just want a slightly different playstyle. Somebody who can be a leader that can be offensive with the high sentinel ability or defensive with dazzling light. For the price point of $70, I don't think they're worth it. But if you already have them, you can have a fun few different playstyles that you could go with. Last for this video, we have the Starblood Stalkers. Now, they're sitting, as we see, with shipping and everything at about $40. Uh, Not horrible, not bad at the moment, 40 bucks. So let's see if them being a $40 out of print box is worth it. So what we have here, these are of course, the profiles from the Tome of Champions 2021. And Kixitaka, I believe that's how you pronounce it, the Diviner, is most equivalent to a Skink Star Priest. Now they have the exact same attack profiles. They have the exact same everything profile. So it looks like they're both 18 hit points. Yeah, there's no difference in their profiles. But Kixitaka is 20 points less than the Skink Star Priest. Now you lose the Skink Star Priest's ranged attack ability, which is pretty decent for a double, but you gain his triple, which I really like his triple, that it adds 1 to move and toughness of friendly fighters while they're within 9 inches of him. And that's friendly fighters. That's not just the fighters from his particular Bladeborn warband here. It's all the ones in your overall warband that are within 9 inches of him. And the trade-off of abilities and costing 20 points less, I think makes Kixitaka super good. Next, we have Clacktrock. Clacktrock is comparable to the Saurus Old Blood. Now, we look at him, Clacktrock is 15 points more. Him and the Saurus Old Blood have the exact same attack profile. He's got 3 more hit points. So we're looking at 15 points more for 3 hit points. That by itself, probably not worth it. But where Clacktrock is nice is that if you're playing Seraphon, you could just take Clacktrock as a choice, not one of your hero or leader choices. So if you are at that point where you are taking 3 other hero or leader choices for your Seraphon, but you still want an Old Blood, Clacktrock is a good option. Now, I'm also going to say this. With the new Skink Warband that came out in the most recent Warcry box set, I like both Kixitaka and Clacktrock a lot. And you can take Kixitaka as an ally, and then you can bring Clacktrock along as well. Kixitaka adds that nice buff. Might make some of your skinks a little more survivable if you're going against strength 3 models. So you could up their toughness to 3. The toughness part, probably not that big, but the movement part could be really good. You're taking an already fast warband and you're making them slightly faster. And then Clacktrock adds something that new Skink Warband does not have, and that's a tanky unit. So I like the 2 of them for that warband as well as allies. It's just really nice, stays in theme. I'm a big themey player. I don't like doing soup, mixing units with each other just because they're good, but they have no themey relation. So I really like those 2 as complements to the Skink Warband. Next, we have Oddipal and Talk, who are both blowpipe skinks, and so they're comparable with the skink of Bolt Spitter. Now, the skink of Bolt Spitter is 5 points less, but what we're looking at with Oddipal and Talk is just better profiles overall. So for 5 points over a normal Bolt Spitter, you are getting 4 inches of range. You are getting 2 points of strength. You are getting either 3 more or 2 more points in crit. And you're getting a slightly better melee profile too, but we don't care about the melee profile too much because they're skinks. But you are getting a phenomenally better range profile. You are also getting 2 more hit points on them. Now, your skinks are probably going to die pretty quickly, but for 5 points more, just getting even 2 more hit points and a just absolutely superior range profile, I think both Oddipal and Talk are worth it. Next, we have Huachi, and Huachi is equivalent to a skink with a meteoric javelin. And I don't like the skink with meteoric javelin. I think he costs too much for what he does, and his range attack is bleh. And I think Huachi is also bleh. and cost 10 points more. So Hawachi, I would never use them. I would never use a skink with a meteoric javelin, to be honest, either. Next, we have Zepik. Zepik is the equivalent of just a skink with club and starbuckler, except for Zepik is just superior to the normal skink with Moonstone Club and Starbuckler. We're looking at the old skink profile, which is 1 more point in strength, so slightly better melee, and we're looking at 2 more hit points for 5 points less than the generic skink with Club and Starbuckler. Zepik is an awesome little point filler model. So if you have 65 points, you want another body, Zepik is by far the superior choice to the standard skink with Moonstone Club and Starbuckler. So overall, we're looking at, I think, 5 of the 6 models in here are definitely worth taking, or at least worth having access to. Hawachi is a sweet looking model, just I don't think I'd ever play it. So at the moment, this box I would say is worth buying if you have Seraphon or even the new Skink Warband, especially since the box is affordable at the moment. And I plan on using several of these models with my Seraphon. And my buddy who just picked up the Skink Warband, I found one of these boxes for him and I bought it for him just so he could use Kixie Taka and Clacktrock, because I was telling them one of the downsides, like I said earlier, the Skink Warband is they don't have any tanky units, so Clacktrock helps out with that. All right, so this is my first video back, just a little update video on how some of the Bladeborn fighters will work and if they're any good with the 2nd edition rules. It's kind of your choice on this. Like I said, this is my opinion on things, but feel free to use it as a guide. And also, I just want to note that since Tome of Champions 2021 is out of print, I did put those pictures of all the profiles in there. I'm going to continue to do that in future videos. In case you have any friends or you yourself don't have access to that Tome of Champions 2021, you could just maybe take some screenshots. And I don't feel bad about that since GW doesn't even sell it anymore. All right. Until next time, this is Generally Bad Gamer Jolly, and you have a great day.